This feels like the list that everybody's been waiting for. Welcome in, NFL fans, to NFL Daily by Chat Sports. My name is Moose, and yes, the title is not misleading. Today, we're going through Jeremy Fowler's top 10 quarterbacks heading into the 2025 season, a list that I'm sure everybody who is an NFL fan has at least thought of at least once. All right, you should also know that there is football this month. I can't believe I'm saying that. July 31st, Lions versus Chargers in the Hall of Fame game, so you're not going to see any of your real favorite players. But we do have NFL football this month, so if you're excited for that, do me a favor, hit a thumbs up on today's video, like it, and show us how ready you are for football. Now, I should note that this list is the top 10 quarterbacks heading into 2025 according to coaches, scouts, and executives. Jeremy Fowler is just the one that compiled this list all together. So this is from all the coaches, scouts, and executives in the NFL compiling their votes into one top 10 list. Let's start with number 10, Baker Mayfield. And I think Baker deserves a spot on this list for sure, especially because of the resurgence of his NFL career, which we'll talk about here in just a second. But last year, Baker was outstanding. Granted, he did throw almost an interception a game, but he threw for 4,500 yards, which was third in the NFL, 41 touchdowns with a quarterback rating of 106.8. And if it weren't for the poor Buccaneers secondary, which was completely the downfall of their team last year, I feel like Tampa could have made an argument for, winning a playoff game and then maybe making a little bit of a push. One anonymous executive said this about Baker Mayfield. He honestly reminds me of Favre a little bit as far as his style of play. He's got this moxie to him, like, F you, I'm on the attack. He honestly reminds me of Favre a little bit as far as style of play. And again, as I said, he deserves a spot on this list because of his career resurgence. If you would have asked me this 2 years ago or said this to me 2 years ago, I would have laughed in your face, and I think most people would have. But since he's been back in Tampa, Baker Mayfield has absolutely been playing like a top 10 quarterback, and I think 10 suits him very well, at least on this list, according to Jeremy Fowler. I should also take a brief moment to mention to you guys at least, this is not my list. This is the list according to the NFL executives and personnel. So if you're getting mad about this list, it ain't mine. So don't go after me in the comment section. Number 9, Jaylen Herz. And Jaylen falls on this list, in my opinion, because he's not nearly as good of a passer as the other guys on the list. But what he lacks in traditional pocket presence, he makes up for in his dual threat ability, which is why I think you have to almost have his rushing yards on any list that you're talking about when it comes to his statistics. You'll see this as a common thread amongst other quarterbacks that are on this list as well. But Jaylen last year, he won a Super Bowl, so he can't be off of the list, right? He was definitely a reason that the Eagles were so dynamic last year. Jeremy Fowler said this about Jaylen Herz. The question isn't whether Hertz belongs in the top 10. He absolutely does. It's whether he has the ability to do it from the pocket and to vault himself into the top 5 eventually, as his Super Bowl pedigree would suggest that he could. Now, I feel like there's a line that we have to draw, because if it weren't for Saquon Barkley, that team definitely would not have made the Super Bowl, and I stake my claim knowing that. But even if you took Saquon out of the equation, I do think that was still a deep playoff contending team. Their defense was too good. Jaylen Herz was too good. Saquon Barkley was just the value that took them over the top. But I'm going to ask you this question. Is Jaylen Herz a top 10 quarterback in the NFL? Yes or no? I think it's undoubtedly yes. It's just a matter of where do you put him? Is it closer to 5 or is it closer to 10? I think 9... 8-ish is probably right around exactly where you want to have him. The first surprise to me, at least, on this list comes in the way of number 8 with Jared Goff. Now, that's not to say that I have Jared Goff as low as like 14. I just don't know that I would have him inside the top 10. But you can't argue statistics. Last year, he was outstanding. Easily the best season of his entire career. 4,600 yards passing, 37 touchdowns, 12 picks, with a QB rating of 111.8. It was clear that, kind of like Baker Mayfield, since he has taken over in Detroit, statistically speaking, he's had a resurgence in his career. If you remember back when he was playing with Sean McVay and the Rams, he took that team to a Super Bowl, but I don't think anybody nearly valued him the same way that he's been valued in Detroit. One NFC defensive coordinator said this about Jared Goff. And another thing that I'll kind of throw in here is I hate the anonymity of all of this. Just like attach your name to something. I digress. He's developed into one of the game's best pure passers. Truth. He doesn't turn the ball over like he used to. He's a reliable quarterback with a real arm. He's not a drop back passer who just makes shit happen. He becomes more than that. And I would have agreed with this whole statement except for the fact that they said reliable. Because that's how I would describe him, is reliable. And I think everybody who watched the NFL last year and who knows about that situation asks the exact same question. Was Jared Goff mostly a product of Ben Johnson, who I think unanimously was considered the number one offensive coordinator in the NFL? Now, only time's going to tell this. We're going to absolutely see this upcoming season in 2025. But I believe that his productivity is going to dip slightly, which is why I wouldn't have him on this list inside the top 10 heading into 2025. Number 7, Justin Herbert. Another one that I don't have a problem with him in the top 10, but I understand if you were to say he doesn't belong on this list. Now, statistically speaking, he was one of the safest quarterbacks last year on the field. He only threw 3 picks. Completion percentage of 66%, almost 4,000 yards, 23 touchdowns, with a 101.7 QB rating. It's obvious the Jim Harbaugh effect means they want to run the football. It's a ground and pound, late 80s, early 90s style of football. NFC personnel evaluator on Herbert. The players above him inside the top 10 consistently create more off-schedule plays and are more dangerous in the 2-minute drill and have won in the playoffs. So I need Herbert to step it up. Like, I just to kind of sum up what that quote was saying, Herbert needs to step it up and win a playoff game. Other than that, like, statistically speaking and what he's done since he's entered the league, he looks like a franchise quarterback. He's played outstanding, but he needs to deliver in the playoffs. You cannot be a top 10 quarterback in this league if you don't have playoff success, at least in some margin. And that's something that he's severely lacking. So if he doesn't get it done this year, I got to take him outside the top 10. Now I'm going to get into the next couple of guys here in just a moment. But, you guys, middle of summer, deals are on sale now. Dak Prescott jerseys, but not just that. All of your favorite NFL jerseys can be found with this link that I've put in the comments and description of today's video. So if you want a Stafford, if you want a TJ Watt, Dak Prescott, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, whoever your favorite player is, use this link that I've put in the comments and description of today's video and start shopping with Fanatics today. They're completely customizable. You can get them in any color that you want, and they look really sweet at parties. One more time, chatsports.com/NFL shirt. Number 6, Matthew Stafford. And I like Matthew Stafford at 6. I think that's very, very fair considering one of the best arm talents the game has ever seen. It just so happens that he spent the majority of his career in Detroit where they sucked and sucked balls. But last year, with a limited amount of offensive weapons due to injuries, I thought Matt Stafford played outstanding. I mean, you can only do so much with the weapons that he had around him, considering he was without Puka Nacua for a while, he was without Cooper Kupp for a while. It just didn't work. But an NFC coordinator said this on Matthew Stafford. A big factor for quarterbacks is what they can do on 3rd and 10. And Matt scares you more than almost anybody in that situation, and he can make plays off schedule. Again, I think if you would have had a fully healthy weapons system, Matthew Stafford could have done a whole lot more in the regular season. Obviously, as the Rams got more healthy, you saw the brilliance of Matt Stafford and Sean McVay more on display. I mean, they almost beat Philadelphia, the reigning Super Bowl champions, in that playoff game in the snow. And remember, this is an LA team that plays in a dome. So it was clear that the Rams were getting really hot at the right time. Unfortunately, nothing clicked altogether, so, it just didn't materialize for them. But Matt Stafford at number 6 feels right. Here's the first major controversy. Like, big time, I don't agree with it all. Jaden Daniels at 5 is insane. Now, that's not to say that he didn't have an unbelievable rookie season. He absolutely did. And the numbers, they back it up. They were unbelievable. 3,500 yards passing, over 800 yards rushing, 25 passing touchdowns, a completion percentage of almost 70%. The only NFL rookie quarterback that I've ever seen in my life not go through any rookie quarterback growing pains. Here's what one NFC coordinator had to say. Won 12 games with a mediocre at best defense and just a decent offensive roster around him. System he played in required him to play off schedule and make plays with his feet on a regular basis for success, and still pretty solid inside the pocket. All those great things are wonderful. And I do think Jaden Daniels is going to be a hell of a player going forward. Let's pump the brakes a little bit. That's way too high for a guy who just entered the league. Now, if you want to have him at 7, if you want to have him at 8, that's fine. 5 is crazy work. That's just my opinion. I probably would have had Stafford at 5, but again, I'm fine with him at 6. Jaden Daniels can't come in at number 5, at least in my opinion. If you love this kind of NFL offseason content, if you agree with me or disagree, and you just want a place to vent and talk about football, do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button. It's completely free. We'll never charge you a thing. Number 4 on the list, the top 4, and these are undoubtedly the top 4 in my opinion. You can kind of switch them around whichever way you want. Lamar Jackson comes in number 4 according to this article. And last year, Lamar should have won the MVP. I'm just going to say it. Dude had over 5,000 total yards from scrimmage. He had 41 passing touchdowns and a QB rating of 120.6. How Josh Allen won it over Lamar last year is beyond me. Now, I do understand that Lamar the year prior probably didn't deserve to win it, but he should have won it last year. NFL defensive coordinator, anonymous of course, said this. Best space runner in the NFL, and he's probably such a good passer now, he doesn't get enough credit for how much he's improved inside the pocket. But he did have to stay in the pocket a little bit more to prolong his career, and he's doing that increasingly well. He's easily the greatest dual-threat quarterback the game has ever seen. Yes, that's above Michael Vick. Yes, that's above Cam Newton. I don't want to hear about the argument. It's not particularly close. He will go down as the greatest dual-threat quarterback that has ever played this game. Now, can he get past Patrick Mahomes? Can he win a Super Bowl? That becomes the question for Ravens fans and Lamar Jackson fans. Only time is going to tell. I do think he wins one. Unfortunately, I just don't see a world where, he wins 2 to 3 while Josh Allen, Burrow, and Mahomes are all in the same division. Not division, conference, excuse me. Number 3, speaking of Burrow, Joe Burrow comes in at number 3. Now, Joe Burrow statistically last year had one of the greatest seasons we've ever seen a quarterback have. And if you don't agree with me, you're living under a rock. These numbers are wicked. 5,000 yards passing, basically. 43 touchdowns, 9 picks, and a 108.5 QBR rating. Single-handedly almost carried them to the playoffs. It just so happens that their defense couldn't stop a fucking nosebleed. But despite that, you were still looking at one of the best statistical seasons you've ever seen out of any quarterback. Joe Burrow, from the pocket, is as good as anyone we've ever seen. Period. Now, he plays with, Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, which helps him out a lot. But I don't think that, Joe Burrow deserves the hate that he gets. They start slow in September. They do. They've got poor ownership. They do. It's just one of those things. You play with the cards that you're dealt. And Joe Burrow makes the most of every single hand. An AFC veteran scout said this about Burrow. If we're talking about playing the quarterback position, nobody plays it better than him. Footwork, ball placement, mental game, line of scrimmage, feel for the pocket, eye level. Every single thing that you use to measure a quarterback, he is the best at. And he's more mobile than he gets credit for. It just so happens that the team around him isn't very good. So, Cincinnati's biggest, problem is their defense, which sucks. But if we were just going off of a quarterback to build your franchise around, you can't have a list with Joe Burrow outside of the top 3, at least in my opinion. I know this is a long video, and I apologize for that, but if you are still watching, type real one. Listen, all the real ones make it to the very end of the video, and if you don't make it to the end of the video, you ain't a real one. So type it in the comment section down below. Let's get on to number 2, Josh Allen. You could make the argument that Allen's at 3, Burrow at 2, and I wouldn't really disagree with you, but Josh Allen is basically Brett Favre 2.0 in my opinion. He's got the cannon of an arm that you're looking for with the mobility of, he's kind of like Cam Newton and Brett Favre combined. He's got the arm of a Brett Favre and the mobility of a Cam Newton if you just combine the two together. Now, with that said, I don't think he should have won MVP last year. These numbers aren't nearly good enough. But he did go head-to-head against Lamar Jackson in the playoffs last year, and he did win. And his numbers weren't bad. In fact, there was a lot more of a restraint in Josh Allen last year, where he played a lot more conservatively, which led to more wins. They almost squeaked it out against the Kansas City Chiefs last year, but obviously the Chiefs are the Chiefs and the Bills are the Bills. Here's what one NFC personnel executive said. He's done everything, answered every test, answered every question. He makes less mistakes, and he takes care of the ball. The only thing that's left to do is win a Super Bowl. Yes, 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 yes. Guys, it's Josh Allen. We don't need to spew how good Josh Allen is. We know. He is one of the most productive quarterbacks the game has ever seen. But can he beat Patrick Mahomes? Can he take his team to the Super Bowl? I think the biggest question last year was about the Bills' defense rather than Josh Allen himself. I mean, let's just go through what the Bills' problems were last year. They couldn't stop the run. Their secondary kind of lost it towards the end of the year. They fixed almost every single problem that they had on defense. And they went a wide receiver by committee approach in the offseason, having not really any solidified number one, but like 5 number 2 or number 3 wide receivers, which when you're paying Josh Allen as much as you're paying him, makes a lot of sense. So this could be the year that the Bills actually make a trip to the big dance, but they'd have to get by number 1. Mahomes. I don't have any problem having him at number 1. 3-time Super Bowl winner. He's an MVP winner. One of the greatest quarterbacks the game has ever seen. Best head coach quarterback combo outside of Brady and Belichick that the game has ever seen. I mean, last year was a down year for Mahomes, and he still made the Super Bowl. These statistically were the worst numbers he's ever put up. But when you consider his coach, his track record, his style of play, and his ability to be Mr. Clutch, name me a player that's better in the NFL right now. All those things combined. I'll wait. You can't. Jeremy Fowler wrapped up his thoughts on Mahomes by saying this. Mahomes' grip on the top spot is loosening slightly. After dominating the voting with back-to-back number 1 rankings in convincing fashion, Mahomes only garnered about 60% of the first-place votes this year, which is still impressive, but well short of last year, when he received all but 1 first-place vote. So Mahomes is still number 1, but the gap has definitely shrunk. What you're going to need to see this year from Mahomes is not just the record that the Chiefs put up last year, but can you put up those video game-like numbers that you were doing in the beginning of your career? And I get it. Quarterback is hard. So not every single season are you going to have an amazing, statistical year. You're going to have some down years, especially considering how bad the Chiefs' offensive line was last year. All things considered, if you had to put your money on it for one guy to go out and win you one football game, I would put my money on Mahomes over anybody in the NFL, period. That's going to do it for us on today's episode. Remember to like the video, subscribe if you haven't, and as always, be cool.